I don't know another way to say this. 3 5-star recruits, not 1, not 2, but 3 Alabama 5-star recruits leaving the Crimson Tide to go to TCU? It's unheard of. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around this. TCU got not 1, not 2, but 3 5-star recruits. Let me ask you a question. What have we been talking about in the past couple of videos? Parity, 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 and more parity. No matter how you want to chop or dice this up, college football is starting to even out. And when I say even out, I'm talking about the playing field. There's no longer just 1, 2, at max 3 really good teams. There's a bunch of them. For example, this year, like I've already told you, I think if you had a 6-team playoff with the current top 6 teams, anybody could beat anybody on any given Saturday. In today's video, the remedy and storyline of parity coming back to the sport, it continues on. Why is that, you may ask? Oh, well, let's just say it has a little something to do with TCU just got not 1, not 2, but 3 5-star players from Alabama. I'm going to say that again, and I hope some of y'all understand the magnitude of this. TCU got not 1, not 2, but 3 5-star players from Alabama, the university. Let me ask you another question. When, if ever, would you even consider the thought of TCU getting a 5-star recruit from Alabama? When, if ever, would you even think about a player that plays for Alabama leaving that school to go to TCU? Ladies and gentlemen, as crazy and unreal as all that sounds, that's the reality of this situation and what just happened. And even as an Alabama fan myself, let me make this clear, I love it. As an Alabama fan, am I sad to see these 5-star recruits go? Yes, I am. Anytime a player leaves, yeah, it does hurt a little bit because I do want them to play at Alabama forever. But as a wise man once told me, all good things must eventually come to an end. We don't get a jam-packed video for this one, but we got one main and one huge topic to go over. We're not doing no intro, none of that. It's simple. If you like college football content, I mean, what are you doing? If you're not subscribed, just consider subscribing. If you are subscribed, thank you a lot. All right, blah, 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 shut the crap up. Now without further ado, let's get into it. The speed of the intro is getting quicker and quicker and quicker. Let's get down to business, though. Let's get down to football talk, and major shout out to everyone that's tagged me in this. I got a ton of notifications, but here's the one I'm currently looking at from Matt Smith. Shout out to you. Tagged me in what's going on with me, Shagan, and Jim Harbaugh. And just like always, I know you may get tired of it, but I can't thank you guys enough for always tagging me and sending me little information like this because it really helps out the channel because I can't see everything. I just can't thank you guys enough for tagging me and stuff. But anyways, let's talk about this for 30 to 45 seconds, and I'm not going to make a big deal about it. As you can see, the NCAA is investigating Michigan and Jim Harbaugh for breaking some rules, which I think not that big of a deal. Apparently, it had something to do with recruiting 2 or 3 years ago where you weren't supposed to come into contact with the players and yada yada yada. Look, I'm not going to try to overhype this situation. Nothing major is going to come out of this. It's not like Jim Harbaugh got caught giving players $50,000. That's not what this is. This is just some minor recruiting stuff, and even if he gets suspended for a couple of games, I still don't think it's a big deal. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I know a lot of people want me to speak on it, but we don't know too much. That's why it's labeled as an investigation is going on. We don't have all the answers. Now, if something crazy comes out, oh yeah, we'll definitely talk about it, but for now, just keep your eyes on it. Moving on to the main topic of the main encore, and really the main reason you're here, we got to talk about what's going on with Alabama and TCU. Major shout out to Donovan and John on Twitter because they tagged me in this first. Late yesterday, well not really late, it was around 1, 2 p.m.-ish depending on where you live, it was announced the breaking news that Alabama running back, by the way, this is a 5-star recruit, Trey Sanders, he committed to TCU. For those of you that don't know too much about Trey Sanders, yeah, maybe you heard the name here and there, I'm going to offer you some insight. This is the same guy coming out of high school who stated he was going to win the Heisman Trophy while he was at Alabama. And yeah, let's just say things did not go according to plan. A lot of people are going to see this and think, man, what happened to this guy? Is he washed up? Is he simply not that good? Why is he leaving Bama to go to TCU? If you're a Bama fan, you know what I'm about to say. While he was at Bama, he had a lot of bad things and overall unfortunate circumstances happen. He had a couple of injuries here and there. He could never stay healthy, and once he got healthy, he got in a car wreck. It was just not a good stand at Alabama, and it had nothing to do with his play on the field because he really couldn't get onto the field. It's one of those things that I labeled as he just needs a new fit. He needs a breath of fresh air. And just like this tweet right here says, TCU grabbing every Bama transfer. I'll talk about that in just a second, but I do want to give a major shout out to the Alabama fan base because every fan has wished him nothing but the best. A lot of times when you see players leave these big time schools like Texas, Oklahoma, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, etc., they're always getting clowned on the internet. Everybody saying, oh, well, you weren't that good anyways, we don't need you, and blah, 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 blah. In this situation, you're not going to see any of that. Bama fans really appreciate this guy, and I do as well. Mr. Trey Sanders, it sucks it didn't work out at Bama, and I'm wishing the best of luck. But And I have a big but, and really it's a main focal point and reason I'm making this video. It doesn't just stop there. Going back to this tweet, man, TCU getting all the Bama transfers. Let's talk about the part that not too many people are noticing. Or not really the part that doesn't make sense, but the side of it. You get what I'm trying to say. Trey Sanders isn't the only Alabama player to go to TCU. A couple of weeks ago, they also got 5-star recruit JoJo Earl. And also, this one laid low under the radar. 5-star offensive tackle, who is one of the best offensive tackles coming out of high school, Tommy Brackemeyer, he decided he's going to TCU. I don't know another way to say this. 3 5-star recruits, not 1, not 2, but 3 Alabama 5-star recruits leaving the Crimson Tide to go to TCU? It's unheard of. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around this. TCU got not 1, not 2, but 3 5-star recruits from one school, and not just any one school, but the best college football program in the country. And here's the biggest misconception about all of this. If you haven't listened to a single other thing I said in this video, listen to this part. I already know what everybody's going to say. Oh, well, Matt, these guys, they didn't play that much. Trey Sanders, he's washed up. He's not that good. JoJo Earl, he didn't do anything last year for Alabama or even this current season. And for Tommy Brackemeyer, I don't expect many people to know who he is, but he's an offensive tackle and he really just got to Bama. More than likely, he will be a first, second round NFL talent. But going back to Trey Sanders and JoJo Earl, a main reason you didn't hear too much about these guys during this season is they were both coming back from injuries. And I don't care who you are, look it up, it's a cold hard fact. 99.9% of athletes, when they're coming off of injuries in the offseason or years before, they're not going to perform at that high of a level. I'm telling you straight up, all 3 of these guys, they can play. And I don't just say that to say that, I believe it. I've always believed in Trey Sanders, and even if you're a Bama fan, when you saw him in limited action, you could see why he was the #1 running back in the country. Same thing with JoJo Earl. When I see JoJo Earl play at Alabama, he reminded me a lot of a Jalen Waddle, just a smaller version. All 3 of these guys going to TCU are what I would like to label as instant impact type of players. You plug these guys in, especially on a team like TCU, no disrespect, they're going to make an impact. Now, am I trying to say Trey Sanders is going to go out there next season and rush for 2,500 yards? Absolutely not. Same thing with JoJo Earl. Am I trying to say he's going to have 1,500 receiving yards next year and 15 touchdowns? No. But here's what I am saying. I definitely expect JoJo Earl to have at least 750 receiving yards, and same thing for Trey Sanders on the ground. Last but not least, I've saved the best for last. Listen to what Sonny Dykes had to say about getting all these Alabama players. Quote unquote, we expect to compete against Alabama not only in recruiting but on the field. So the thing you don't want to start doing is taking a bunch of guys at Alabama that can't play for them, because in theory, they shouldn't be able to play for you either. What he's trying to say is the same thing I said throughout this video. These guys are really good football players, and he expects them to make an impact at TCU. Let me make this clear to all these people that are going to try to say this and that. These guys played at Alabama. The thing that held Trey Sanders and JoJo Earl back was injuries. That's it. For Tommy Brackemeyer, I understand he didn't play this season, but that's because he was a young guy, and next year, probably been a starter. These guys played at Alabama. They're not scrubs. TCU, they got steals in my opinion. If I'm a TCU fan, I'm ecstatic about this. Even if you lose the championship game against Georgia, look, I get it. It is going to be depressing. You don't want to make it that far just to lose. But even if you do lose, you got to be happy. With the way everything's heading for this TCU football program, it's looking like they're here to stay for the next few years. Do I think they're going to be a national title contender every single season? Absolutely not, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I am very curious. Let me know your thoughts on this down below, but right away.